Let me just add Jai to the video.
Hello.
Hi, hello, how are you?
Doing well, doing well. How are you doing?
Good, good. I hope the lockdown's been good.
Yeah, all good, all
As
good.
good, great. Okay, so I think we can start with the live. Quick introductions. My name is Panasti Vora. I am the co-founder of the Creator Toli, and so the Creator Toli is basically a basic creative industry network for creative peers and freelancers to connect with different creative people and just collaborate and create together as a community. It's a place for people to learn, earn, grow, and work from anywhere. And today, continuing our Junoon sessions, we have artist Jai Ranjit. I'm just gonna introduce Jai. I need to read this out because there's so much that you've done that I can't remember everything. Jai is a self-taught artist, photographer, printmaker, and educator with a career spanning 13 years, with over 25 solo and group exhibitions under his belt. Jay has been teaching for over 10 years and is currently the Associate Director of Student Experience at ISDI School of Design and Innovation, where he also teaches art and design amongst many other things.
Yes,
So, yeah.
absolutely.
So,
N- Namaste, everyone.
so can you,
Very, very good to be here.
yeah, we're
I
very
hope I'm
glad to
very
have you here.
audible. Is
Yes,
the
yes, you
sound
are.
okay? Okay, great, great, great. Thank you so much. Absolute pleasure to be here. Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, I hope
So,
whatever I talk to you about will be fun and interesting and not really dull and boring. So, yeah.
of course. We, no doubt about that. So can we start with a little bit about how your journey, since like you're a self-taught artist, so how exactly did you get into art as a career choice?
So, unlike most people's journeys in art, where they're like, I'm born to do this, I'm going to become an artist straight from the get go, my focus was more on becoming an Air Force pilot. I love
Oh,
flying, I love aviation, and all of that kind of stuff. So, it was very interesting to start off in that journey. But I always had this affinity for art. I always like looking at it. Never knew why. I always never understood it as such. Um, while I had some fantastic art teachers in school who really inspired me, like Varsha ma'am, who was super, super encouraging throughout. Um, the kind of system we had never really introduced me to art as art. It was always more as a kind of hobby or something. So I never really regarded it all that much. And then the
right.
journey kind of started off leading me towards the Air Force and going down that road. But then I
The
realized
Han
that
Solo
maths and
vibes.
Hindi, very much so. But like maths and Hindi are not my best friends, and they kind of took the idea and flew out the window with it when it came to the 12th standard, well, literally. At which point, one of my classmates from school, Devashish Guruji, who is a wonderful artist and designer himself, he he was visiting from on his break from Srishti when he was doing his foundation year, and he saw my science journals and all my sketches and that, and he's like, "Why don't you take up art as a hobby?" No, I'm not the kind of person who's going to just start something for the sake of doing it. I really, really like to research into it and then say, okay, yeah, I want to do this because it makes sense to me or I can figure it out. So I started researching art and I was like, okay, what is art? What is the point of it? How do we do it? Who's done what? And a month into the research, I was like, this is me. This is my life. This is what needs to be done. And
That's
it was at that
crazy.
point also that I realized that, and getting an education is also equally important. But the kind of learner I am, I figured that going to art school would not be ideal for me at that point. Of course, there were like the cost constraints and things like that, which one has to take into consideration. Because as an artist or any kind of individual, when you know that you want to do something, you don't want to be dependent on other people for it. And even though I have supremely supportive parents who have pretty much given me anything I needed throughout my life, I always wanted to kind of put my foot down and say, if I'm going to do this, it's going to be under my own steam and under my own power. So I took that decision of saying, okay, no to art school. But you do need a degree in this world that we live in. You do need something to show that you have an education or whatever that means. But I figured that, okay, I can still do a BA and get the kind of learning and information I need for me personally. I'm not discounting going to art school or design school or any kind of school at all. I want everyone to please make that very clear in your minds. I'm just saying that for me at the time, it didn't make sense.
Right. It was your
So,
personal opinion, sort of, and the way you wanted to
correct.
learn wasn't that
Absolutely,
right.
absolutely. I've always been very different to most people, even in terms of my observation of the world and understanding of it. So I kind of figured that self-learning would be a better way of doing things. But at the same time, I also needed an academic base in what I was doing. So I chose philosophy and political science in my BA to make sure that whatever
Right.
I'm painting, it has substance to it. It's not just colors on a canvas, but the colors have some kind of meaning or can convey some kind of experience to people through the work I'm doing. So from that point of view, I started doing my BA simultaneously. So it was 6 hours of my regular BA classes in Jai Hind College, and then 8 hours of teaching myself art every day after that. Whether it was through reading, writing, painting, experimenting with materials, watching movies, watching television shows, documentaries, going to libraries, going to museums or galleries. It was actually
Oh,
at that
wow.
point that I started something that I'm honestly really proud of as a venture of my own in the art world, which is I started doing these weekly gallery hops, right? Where I'd go to galleries every week, and if somebody wanted to come along, it was a great thing for me. So from 2006 all the way to say mid 2007, 2008, I'd be doing these things on my own. Like I'd just be going by myself because I was trying to teach myself. So I'd talk to the gallerists, I'd build up relationships with them, I'd talk to curators, I'd talk to the artists, whoever was in the gallery at the time, just to learn more, to understand more. And I did the same thing at the museums as well. The
Right.
CSMBS is a treasure trove, and believe me, anyone who's
Agreed.
remotely interested in art, you need to be making time every week or at least once a month to just visit that building and walk through its marvelous, marvelous walls. Not through its walls, but within its walls. Um, Walking through
Not
its walls would be
Hogwarts.
amazing, but that's not how the world works. But what it gave me was this ability to figure out how to understand art for myself, and that gave me the methodology of being able to introduce art to people in a very relatable way. So it was never about, oh my god, look at that stroke and it's absolutely perfect and it conveys the emotional disturbance of the artist at that moment in time. None of that nonsense. It was just
Right.
about,
Yeah.
this is an artwork, this is the intent of the artist, what is your experience like with this artist and this artwork, and let's discuss that to understand why you like it, why you don't like it, what kind of reaction is it producing. If it's
Right. Right.
producing a reaction, it has succeeded as an artwork. If it's not succeeded in bringing out a response from you, that means one of two things: either the artwork is not successful enough in its own intent, or otherwise you simply do not, I don't use the word vibe, but you don't necessarily find yourself um, attaching yourself to it in a certain way, whether it's emotional, physical, mental, any kind of direction. So from that point of view, it allowed me to take people on the journey with me and to have conversations that were spectacular. Because even like the least experienced person when it comes to art will have something to say, and it could be a simple sentence like, I like the red that they used in that painting, right? And
Right.
it means so much more than any academic thesis paper, because it's an honest response that makes you think,
Exactly. When you see
okay,
it
if
for
this
the first
person likes
time,
the red,
and then
yeah, like
yeah.
why do they like that red? What is the relationship of everything around that red to the color itself that gets them to respond to it? And so that journey introduced me to education and teaching in a very subtle manner, but it's something that kind of stayed with me and still stays with me to this day. is that
Right.
if I'm going to explain something to someone, if I'm going to teach someone something, it's not about me convincing them that I know more than them about that particular thing, but it's more about getting them to ask questions of things that they normally would never have the courage to ask because they were never told it's okay to ask those questions,
Oh,
if that
yeah.
makes
Like
any
more of
sense.
an applied learning in a way, I guess.
Correct. It's more
Right.
like if you take mathematics, for example, right? I'm not particularly good at mathematics to any extent, except for geometry. And that's mainly because I was never given a valid reasoning A as to why I was doing something, and B as to why I had to do something in a very particular specific way, right? Um, so let's take an example here of set theory, right? We use it every day of our lives, and yet we know nothing about it. We all learned it in the seventh standard. We all learned those Venn diagrams and A union B and all that kind of stuff. But we were never given a context as to where it's used until my 12th standard maths teacher, when I was almost failing in mathematics, decided to take a different approach and give me context to the mathematics, which is what helped me pass, by the way. And it opened my eyes to a different way of looking at the world, which was when you look at a library, right, you have to classify books, you have to classify writers and contents, and you have to segregate all these pieces of information and then arrange the books in the library in a particular way. That's set theory. All books
Right.
is a universal set, and then you have all history books as set A, all horror books as set B, and then you have to see, okay, do these overlap in any way? Where's the union of them? Where's the intersection of them? And that's set theory, and it blew my mind when he explained this because I was like, it just makes so much more sense. I would have understood this 5 years ago
Yeah,
if
I think
someone
when
just
you
gave
can
me context.
visualize something that you're supposed to learn, it sort of just is in your brain, and then that same visual
Absolutely,
keeps like, yeah, it's
absolutely,
constantly there. Yeah.
100%. And doing the gallery hops allowed me to apply that. So once I knew that I could do this, teaching became like the next automatic function to kind of
I mean,
execute.
I've been on a gallery hops, and I can successfully say I've learned so much more from like just listening to you talk about certain paintings, and uh, like just getting everybody on the walk's perspective as well, because I was a student at
Yeah,
the time, so for me it was such an important exposure that I got, because I it sort of really opened my eyes into, okay, this is how people think, and this is how like these people worked, and it was a really nice experience.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
And it kind of it's taken my journey from just being about art to being about an art educator. My style of painting has changed over time. I have gone from starting in abstraction, where I started with learning about Kandinsky, into going more and more into cubism and more into figuration, but obviously maintaining all my different styles and all the different aspects simultaneously. Because for me, it started off with a very, very critical point of thought and a philosophy, which was every story and every piece of information needs to be related in a different way. So, why should I limit myself to focusing on just one style or one format of art production when I can use the plethora of things around me to do
Right.
those ideas and do those stories more justice? Right. And so that's kind of expanded throughout as I've gone along, and it's allowed me to also grow in my journey into different media, different forms of art making. So I went from painting into printmaking. I've more
Right.
then I've gone into photography in much greater detail, writing as well, um, conceptualization, thinking, events, uh, doing wedding photography with the Cheesecake Project, where Stuti again taught me
Nice.
so much and showed me how to see the world differently. And that went into storytelling, and that storytelling went into, okay, I want to help young students who are working on short films with their production and all of these kinds of things. And it comes honestly not just from my experiences, but from the cumulative stories that I've been told growing up of the people in my family on both sides. Right? So, mom side, creative family, film line, production, food, all of that fun stuff. And
Yeah,
then
so
on
you've
my
been
dad's
exposed to
side,
that since a young age.
yeah. And then on my dad's side, the service industries. So like doctors and accountants, and my dad is in hospitality, like in-flight hospitality and stuff, aviation. So getting that all-round influence gave me this kind of very interesting journey and path, which was about exploration. It was about understanding and experience and understanding how people experience, which also then
Hmm.
along the way led to the choosing of philosophy and political science. And I
Right.
honestly wanted to take psychology, but they told me, no, your overall marks are not too great because of the maths and Hindi fiasco that happened before. But it didn't stop me from interacting with my faculty, with my teachers, and my contemporaries, and talking psychology, asking psychological questions, discovering myself, discovering why we do things in a particular way, why we function in particular ways, what is the politics of the world around, and that's brought me to where I am today, working with ISD and teaching students, not just in the design school, but across all the schools that we have in our ecosystem. It becomes very important for me to not stop that journey of exploration, because if I do, then it means that I'm not doing any one thing justice, because I'm not understanding everything in the same context. So yeah, that's
Right.
that's
That
kind
makes
of
so much sense. Like, yeah, because like to know how your like one thing works, you need to know how other things work as well. I mean, to sort of get that into perspective, because as a creative person, as someone who's so like clearly you're so passionate about what you do, like I don't think you can ever
absolutely,
stop learning or ever stop wanting to do work or do
absolutely.
anything,
In fact,
and
on
that
on
shows so
that
clearly.
yeah, on that
Okay.
point, it was a personal conversation or a dialogue, if you want to call it that, that I had with myself, and this was, I think, mid 2006 or late 2006, like around, I'd say August, September-ish, something around that point of time. So I'd been about 6 months into teaching myself art at that point, and I made a very, very strong point to have a conversation with myself at that point and said, can you do this? Should you do this? Do you want to do this? Why are you doing this? And for how long do you plan to do this? And at that point, the question arose of how long. And the straightforward answer that just came to my head was, I'm going to keep painting until there's nothing left for me to learn from painting.
Whoa,
At
that is
which
very
point, I will switch
deep.
over to making in another way or doing something in another way. Right.
Whoa.
And that question was revisited again and again over time, where even in today's world where we're sitting at home and we're struggling to do certain things or execute certain things, or when you hit low points in your career, you ask the question, like, how much longer do I want to do this? And the same answer keeps coming back. It's not about the money, it's not about the fame, it's not about success, it's about what more is left to learn. Is there something more to learn from representing something in a particular way? Like, for example, if I want to tell a story to myself, do I have to paint something, or do I even just decorate a notebook, right? And give myself something to learn from it. And what I learned from just doing this little collage thing was, I've grown to love character design and creature design even more. And the creature I've designed here is a representation of being aggressive with thoughts and making notes. This is a notebook, so I've got notes in here. The idea of putting the newsprint on it is to remind me to use words. Right?
Right.
So there's always something to learn and something to do. And the day none of that matters anymore, and I'm unable to gather something new from it, I'm going to stop. But until then, I'm
Right.
going to keep doing it.
That's crazy. This is like a proper. I don't know if this is like I'm not even saying this intentionally, but this sort of is coincidentally so similar to Star Wars, and
Oh,
I
absolutely.
don't know. I mean,
Absolutely.
like it's like you're like Luke Skywalker, like learning the ways of the Jedi on your own,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
that sort of this thing. It's crazy.
I don't think it's a coincidence for you to point that out, because I first saw Star Wars when I was, what, 6 or 7 years old, and I fell in love with it not because, oh my god, laser swords and flashy lights and all that kind of stuff, but just the character of Luke Skywalker, somebody who is so young and so not carefree but um, aloof, and then suddenly has to accept responsibility and grow with it. It resonated with me a lot, and the kind of journey he went on. Obviously, I'm not going on such a traumatic journey myself, but it's definitely similar in those ways where he's always seeking to learn, always seeking to share his knowledge, always seeking to do good through his actions. And he does get conflicted at times on whether he is doing the right thing, saying the right thing, hurting someone's feelings, or saving someone else's feelings by doing the wrong thing. Right? So that it is kind of also a reflection of me, which is why I saw so much of myself in the character and in the whole storyline of Star Wars. So the film series has stayed with me for that reason and many more, because it goes it's a question of philosophy, honestly. It's a question of how would you respond in a certain situation to certain stimuli around you. What do you
Right.
understand about the world around you? What pushes you to do a thing in that manner?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember you created a lot of work, like artwork based on Star Wars, like those Yoda
Oh,
prints
absolutely.
and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, do you have?
I have the
Okay.
Yoda block
So
right
that's
here.
so cool. That's amazing. That's like yeah. Okay, so so next question was, I mean, we've spoken like a lot throughout in bits and pieces. So like specifically, I mean, you said you know the whole teaching aspect, the learning aspect for you was something that you weren't very comfortable with. That's why you taught yourself. But somehow you've now gone back to teaching yourself. So how did that sort of happen? Like how, what made you want to teach? Is that
So,
something that you want to teach people
uh,
your way and stuff like that?
so what the way I see it was, I had great teachers. Don't get me wrong. At any level throughout my school life, I had great teachers. Um, it's just a little unfortunate that some of them could not figure out how to reach me because they were so set in their ways of teaching and their assumption that everyone will understand in the way they're teaching. And also the kind of system we have in place where teachers are not given enough leeway to be able to teach in a more one-on-one focused kind of manner because of having 50 students a class or something like that.
Yeah.
You do tend to teach yourself things to a certain extent, but you also then realize that there are some aspects of learning and exploration that you would like to partake in that your teachers in school may not have an interest in or may not know how to engage with you on. Right? Taking the example of Star Wars, even at that young age in school, say between like fifth and sixth standard, when I was starting to understand science and I was starting to understand physics, I had to ask myself the question. When the first time I heard about gravity, my first thought was not, oh, an apple falls to the ground. My question was, okay, that makes sense. But how does space function? If we're
Right.
saying that a body like the sun generates gravitational pull, right? Why is the Earth not being sucked into? Why is gravity not uniform throughout? From that point
Right.
of view, if I know that we fired rockets into space, how does gravity work in that situation? And when you look at water, there's a meniscus, and only when that meniscus is stretched beyond its capacity and it breaks, that something happens, right? So, in the same way, does gravity have a meniscus? Is there a certain atmosphere or something that we're pushing through that allows us to escape? Like, what is the limit? How does it function? All of those things. Which, ironically, I was thinking of these terms. We never really even considered explaining these concepts when we're talking in mathematics of limits and functions.
Right.
So I never
Right.
understood it. And then later on, like Steve has just mentioned, exploring food after gallery hops with side effects, right? Food is the best way that I can explain my understanding of things like integration and functions and limits because it
Right.
just makes sense. Integration is essentially when you have a recipe and you're pushing everything together and combining it to a certain outcome. Limits is, oh, I only have so much of salt. I only have so much flour, therefore I can make only this many cookies. Right?
Right.
That's an understanding that one can get only by oneself through observation, and that's where the self-learning kind of went. But that's not how I teach, because I understood that that works for me specific. But as a teacher, I have to make sure that I'm able to understand the general understanding format or learning format of the class, but also be able to interact with each student in such a way that I can identify their individual learning methods and change my conversation with them or with examples or conversations to be able to generate that learning. So for me, the self-learning part was a way to kind of complement my faculty and to complement my teachers' methods to be able to gain my own understanding about it. So, for example, like history, while my teacher was amazing at explaining what was happening and how it was happening, I found that I was able to memorize things better by listening to it being read out.
Hmm.
So, from that, it's not about when we say self learning, it's not about just sitting down and saying, I read a book and now I know everything. No. It's about figuring out a method of absorbing that information.
That works
So
for
as a
you as a
teacher
person, right?
also, yes, correct. So as a teacher also, I have to understand how somebody is able to learn. For me to be able to provide them with the information in the correct manner that they can absorb it.
Hmm. Okay, right, right,
So that consistently is pushing me to keep doing that and to remain a self-learner, even though I am now looking to start doing online courses and stuff for myself because I want to learn a lot of things and because I'm stuck at home and I can't go talk to Tasneem Mehta at the Badaji Lal Museum about a particular piece of history or learn something from Jnana Prabha or go to any of these physical locations where I would sit in a lecture. And now having to refer to a Coursera or a Udemy or whatever service provider is available
right.
to give me that context or to be, I can't go visit UCLA, right?
Hmm.
Or I can't go to Harvard, or I can't go to Yale, or I can't go to JNU, or to Delhi University, or wherever else. I have to stay at home and do it. So going online, sitting through those structured courses does allow me to gain the kind of academic learning I need, but at the same time, it's giving me the leeway to learn in my own way by reading or reciting or hearing someone say it or using an audiobook or whatever it is to be able to bridge that gap. Because
Right.
now that I've identified how I can learn well, I can actually go to the providers of the education, providers of the information, and say, okay, give me your material, teach me your ideas, give me your thoughts, and let me play with them in a way that I understand, I will understand it.
Right. So now you
If that makes
know
sense.
exactly how to do it, like how to work around it, how to
Absolutely.
absorb it yourself,
Absolutely.
right? So
Yeah.
I mean,
And let me be very honest here. YouTube has played a big part in my education, but I haven't just watched every video. Right? I look for people who I can relate to and understand their way of thinking in the way that they're able to explain it. Like Simone Yech, for example. She is a brilliant woman. She's gone through a lot over the past couple of years, but her courage, her tenacity, and just her owning her mistakes is a great person for me to learn from. She doesn't call herself like an amazing creator or something. She calls herself the queen of shitty robots. Like that's her tagline. She likes building robots that fail because she learns from and then the next one becomes even better. That's the
right,
person I want to learn from. And so I've been able to take all of their teaching methods and their way of speaking and understand how to apply it. And many of my students are listening in today. Um, they teach me as well. So as a teacher, I'm not
yeah,
just a teacher, I'm also a student with them. So it continues and keeps going on as we move.
yeah. True, true, very true. I mean, yeah, we never really stop learning, especially in the creative fields. There's so much coming up every single day. I mean, like meme culture is also sort of like you can use your art skills for something like that. Like some things just keep updating. So
Absolutely.
it's really nice to sort of hear your view on this, and especially with your experience in this field and this like coming from you is a like a big thing. And I have one question for you, though, is that now you spoke about self-learning, you spoke about how you taught yourself. How, like, how, how, how big a part did discipline play for you in this? Like, because I know there are a lot of students here, and I mean, I'm also like pretty much still learning, and getting that time to sit and like, okay, no, I'm gonna
Um,
like learn, okay, the discipline sort of.
Discipline, yeah, discipline is at its core. I mean, on one hand, you need passion. It really needs to drive you that you want to do something. But discipline is also equally important. While I am somebody who enjoys a more laid back way of looking at the world and doing things and relaxing and like taking my time with it, there's still a discipline in place saying that even if I'm sitting around and watching YouTube videos for 6 hours on a particular Sunday, I'm not just watching things and just watching them. I'm learning from them. Like even if I watch, say, Big Star play Warzone for 3 hours, right? The man has turned playing a game into a career, and he is one of the best career Warzone players right now in the world as a streamer, also. But when I'm watching him play, I'm studying how he's looking at things and how his reaction time is improving. What choices is he making? What strategies is he applying? Right. So, from that perspective, discipline plays a very, very important role. Where even if you have, say, 2 days to learn something, you have to structure it. You have to say that, okay, I only have 2 days to learn this. What do I do? What are the steps I need to take to learn something? It's just a simple application of design thinking, which we're not taught in school, by the way, which we should be. But it comes down to just saying, if I want to execute something well, I have to make sure I put in time and effort for it to happen. You don't get good at baking by just following a recipe. You get good at baking by understanding the relationship between those materials, between
Ingredients,
those
yeah, yeah.
ingredients. You understand the difference between uh, flash frying and deep frying and things like that. So it becomes really, really important. Sorry, I'm just being handed a cup of tea in a Doctor Who mug, if you
Yes. Oh, nice.
um, so these are things that one has to take into consideration that if I want to do something well, I have to put the time and effort in. Now, if I hadn't done that when I first started teaching myself art, I would not be able to paint at all, right? I have, I'm not the greatest at portraits. Okay, I'm quite terrible at them, but I have improved over time. So, just to give you an example of how discipline gets you somewhere in terms of improvement, this is a self-portrait in 2013.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Now, I did want to I was always and always will remain a mainly abstract artist, but I wanted to represent the personality side of me. But I chose to go down this road, which was a little more loose and open, because I feared my ability to create a portrait. I'm not good at it. I'm really not good at it. But I've become better because I started here, and then over time I've painted portraits like that. Right? This is inspired by a friend of mine,
Right.
and you can see the transformation. Like the color palette is still similar, but
Yeah,
I've gone
yeah.
from doing something very abstract to something a little bit more rooted in reality until you reach this piece, which I've done very recently because I've been stuck at home and I've had the time to do it. I may have to stand up and show you this, but um,
Oh, wow.
it's a self-portrait. Right? It's a massive piece. So
Wow,
yeah,
the transition is so apparent between
exactly,
I mean, everything is good, but you can see the development that you've made throughout, like,
absolutely, and that
your journey and your strokes
yeah,
and everything.
it absolutely, and it comes from painting really terrible paintings. But you have to sit and paint them. You have to make them. If
Yeah.
you don't know where you're going wrong. You really don't. Right? When I'm making prints also, like my initial few prints, I made a mess of them. They were terrible. But over time, by dedicating time to watching videos, researching things, right? So when I was teaching myself printmaking, for example, there's a YouTuber called David Bull. Okay, he's a brilliant, brilliant printmaker, Canadian man who moved to Japan because he wanted to learn Japanese woodcut printmaking.
Oh.
Moved his entire life. Okay, he invested his time with great dedication and great discipline to find good teachers, to find things, to research things, to collect things, and thanks, Jyoti, and to produce these amazing, beautiful works of art, to set up his own printmaking store called Mokohankan. And
Oh,
by choosing to then create a YouTube channel, he has allowed for people like me to watch the videos and understand the importance of discipline in order to achieve perfection. Which is why,
right.
even for my YouTube channel, when I'm making a video or something, like for example, I just made this for last week's video. All right, it's a multicolor
Oh,
print, right? And these things take time and
nice.
effort, but I've reached a point where I could make this in one sitting now. It's a four-color print, but I could make it in one sitting. And discipline
Right. That's
will,
huge. I mean,
yeah, discipline will have to complement passion, because passion will only get you so far, right? Passion will only get you to the point where you're just painting something or writing something or making something because. But if you don't understand the process of making the thing, what it's going to take, how you're supposed to get there, it's never going to turn into something viable.
that's true.
It's
Very true.
absolutely
Yeah. Like
core.
you need to
And
put that passion into action and get that going. You know.
absolutely, absolutely, that passion is required. And that's again coming back to Star Wars, to make a segue, is when I fell in love with the films, it wasn't just what I saw on screen that I fell in love with, but what was happening behind the camera. The production of
Yeah.
that entire set of films
It's
was insane, and it still is insane to this day. Like,
yeah.
to have somebody like George Lucas as an inspiration means that you're looking at the discipline that he had to instill in himself to say, I'm going to write this insane story, okay, which is supposed to be like a space western philosophy opera in space, right,
Right.
amongst the stars in a galaxy far, far away with aliens. Everything that comes with that, the thought of just that as a concept is mind boggling enough. But then to discipline
Exactly.
yourself to
Yeah.
sit down and write a script, write a story,
Hmm.
understand how a certain name doesn't work and change that. Like Luke Skywalker was first called Luke Starkiller. And then you
Okay.
suddenly, like, you look at that and you're just like, yeah,
Yeah.
Starkiller doesn't seem like a
No.
nice person. It doesn't seem like the good guy, right?
Yeah.
So to make changes and all, it comes with that. And like the guys who do production on Star Wars, they're an inspiration of discipline. To be able to be
I
given a
agree.
concept in and then within a week to churn out the first prototypes, it's insane. And I know this because I made a model lightsaber hilt myself out of just like cardboard tubing and like
Whoa.
the top of like a chewing gum box and linoleum sheeting
That
and
is so
like
cool.
masking tape and stuff, right? And I did this as a joke purely because I had a toy lightsaber that one of my friends gifted to me for my birthday a few years back, and it got fungus and I couldn't save it and I had to throw it out. So I was just like, oh no, I don't have a lightsaber anymore. And I was like, but wait, I can make one. Ta-da.
That looks
So now I
really
have a
nice.
lightsaber, right? And
Yeah.
but the discipline of thought has to come in from somewhere where you're saying, you know what, I can do this if I put my mind to it and give myself an idea of what to do. Which is exactly what I did when I was teaching myself art, where I created a curriculum for myself. I said, okay, what are people learning? What are we supposed to learn in an art school? What am I supposed to be teaching myself? How am I supposed to be learning it? And then building a curriculum and saying, okay, I'm going to start here, move to this, move to this, move to this.
Right.
These are deadlines I need to hit. Like, it really, really
Milestones,
makes a big
goals, and all
difference.
of that. Hmm.
Yeah,
Right. Wow. Wow. I mean, like, this is so inspiring. I mean, just the thought of like learning myself is scary for me because, like, how I don't even know if I could give myself that discipline, especially when I was out of school. Like, just wanting to like laze around all day and not study, which is one of the reasons why I went into art because I didn't want to study
absolutely.
like textbooks.
That's kind of something that
And it's,
everyone gets pushed towards, because we don't actually equate art as a valid learning or a skill in school. It's considered as something additional.
yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think that appreciation is now starting to come, and where people are focusing more on art as a proper career option, so that people get to
Absolutely.
sort of give their time and their passion to it. I mean, now you've had a huge journey in art, and during self study, during learning, you must have met a lot of people, and may have inspired you a lot of some anecdotes from your time of studying. If you can just
Absolutely.
tell us.
So, number one on the list is Brinda Miller because she really took me under her wing. She really taught me so much of what I know today, not just as an artist, but as a person as well. So, right out of junior college, right, I start teaching myself art and I'm like, okay, 2006, April, start learning what is art, blah, blah, blah. Come 2007, right? So April 2006 is when I start teaching myself art. April 2007 is when I feel like I'm ready to call myself an artist and start a journey as an artist and start making work. Um, Around say September or so, I'm thinking, okay, I want to do like an internship. I want to do something interesting. I want to get some work experience uh, alongside this. And my uncle tells me, oh, Brinda Miller is looking for help. She's working on the Kalagoda festival. Do you want to assist her? I was like, yeah, of course. So
Wow.
quickly, like, sent her a message and like, I'd like to interview for this. And so did an interview with her, and from the minute I walked into her house, I was just like, oh my god, who is this person? How is she so amazing? Out the walls, and I was just like, oh my god, this is amazing. It is, for lack of a better term, amaze balls. Like it was just so good, and because I started my journey as an abstract artist, to see all those abstract pieces full of color and layers and vibrancy, like there is a reason why my style is like this, right?
Wow.
It's because of the understanding that this is allowed. And I understood that from looking at her works, where she works with so much of material and things. Like she uses old rubber mats and sticks them on her canvases to get the kind of texture she wants. She'll use rubber mats to create visual textures by pouring liquid paint on it, letting it dry, and then peeling the rubber mat off. Like, who teaches you these things ever?
That's yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So when I saw these works and I got to work with her, it was amazing because I'd finished college and then I'd go to her studio in Shivaji Park and we'd sit there and we'd work on the Kalagoda festival and then she'd be painting simultaneously. And that taught me that multitasking is a thing. You can do it. If you just schedule things and you put your mind to it and arrange things a certain way, think of things in a particular order, you can execute a lot more. Beyond that, just as a human being, she taught me to be kind to people by empathizing with what it is that they are doing, where they come from, and how they function. Now, I've already
Right.
learned all of this from my parents and my family and my friends, but in a professional context, it was learning it all over again, and she showed me in a very kind way herself. Right? I was invited to lunches. I was invited to like evening sit downs with her guests and all the artist friends that she had who came to the studio. I was never excluded. And the reason
Right. You
she
got a
did
lot of
that is
exposure because of that.
absolutely. And exposure not just to people who could give me a job or buy a painting or whatever, but just people I could learn from. Just by listening to conversations like Sunil Padwal, right? Tanuja Padwal, to be able to sit and have lunch with Arzan Khambata, right? Amazing
Right.
personalities, amazing
Like
people who just have so much knowledge to share. And also, something that she instilled in me was the work ethic that is required to make things good for people, right? So when we were working on the Kalagoda festival, for example, through her, I met uh, Manik Tawar, who was the head of Spenta Multimedia, who was doing all the print production and everything for
right.
the festivals, brochures and all of that. And he allowed me to sit in with his team because at that point of time I was the programmer and scheduler for the festival. This is 2007, end of 2007, and this was for the 2008 festival. And so I'm sitting in Spenta's print studio, the design studio in Lower Parel, the night before Um,
Yeah. I thought
Oh,
that-
yeah. So,
So I had to sit in the studio and figure things out on the fly because we needed to get stuff done. He was still there in the office and it was like 11:30 in the night. He's still standing there, still guiding everyone, still everyone, motivating people. And his designers also followed. I could see that the designers are getting extremely frustrated because so many changes that keep happening. And every time on the final thing, be like, okay, ready to send it to print, I get a phone call that there are no change this, change that. And,
I'm sorry just to cut you off. I think I can't hear you clearly. Your
oh,
voice
sorry.
is
I believe,
cracking away.
give me a second. And
Okay.
might
Can
be fine.
everyone hear him properly? If so, just put a thumbs up. If,
Give me
uh,
one. Just to get
yeah. Sorry, guys. 1 second. It's just so you can hear him clearer. Yeah. So I mean, I'm sure everybody's enjoying this. I hope everyone is. I mean, I am most definitely enjoying this. It's been such a nice conversation and to learn the importance of discipline and all of that. So yeah, let me just try and get him back on. I think there's a small technical problem. Sorry, guys. Sorry, maybe 1 sec. I think there's a small issue. Okay, so I think what we can do is, since we're anyways running out of time, if there's 10 minutes left, I'll end this live here and we can restart the live and continue this conversation forward. So, thank you everybody who's here. Please stay tuned. Like, I'll be back in 2 minutes. And yeah, just stay online, stay where you are. We're going to be back. Thank you. Namaste.